Bay 12 of the cloister begins a long series of non-thematic bays, each one with its own points of interest. I will not attempt to discuss every shield in the bay. The aim of this talk is to give an overview, while at the same time providing a brief diversion into medieval heraldry. For a detailed account of each shield you must go to my book. Just to orientate ourselves with a map, we are on the West Walk. This bay has 36 shields of arms and was constructed, by my estimation, between September and October 1410. A good place to start is the central shield, which betrays the particular interest of the creator of the cloister scheme, Archbishop Thomas Arundel. Here we have the arms of Cardinal Simon Langham, Archbishop of Canterbury, jewels across patty between 3 crowns or, devised while Langham was Bishop of Ely. These are the attributed arms of St Ethelreda of Ely, jewels 3 crowns or, with the addition of a cross. The bishop was translated to Canterbury in 1366, but resigned in 1368 on becoming cardinal and went to live at Avignon, later to be succeeded by Thomas Arundel as Bishop of Ely. Arundel went from thence to York and then on to Canterbury. He included in the cloister all his predecessors as archbishops who had become cardinals. While on the subject of Thomas Arundel's personal interests, we have at 2 the quartered arms of Lovell and Holland for John Lord Lovell and Holland, whose father, a friend of the Archbishop, had died the previous year. These might have been used by the father, but on his seal, and also that of his wife, we have Lovell impaling Holland, his wife being the granddaughter and heiress of Lord Holland. The Narboroughs of Norfolk at 15 were retainers of the attainted Lord Bardolph, another friend of the Archbishop. Then we have the Archbishop's relations, his great-nephew John Mowbray the Earl Marshal at 5, Elizabeth Butler, Lady of Wem, at 13 was a kinswoman, as was the Beaumont widow of the last Lord Audley at 12. While John Wick at 39 is also believed to have been a kinsman. We have a number of the Archbishop's high-ranking tenants. Thomas St Nicholas of Kent at 9 held the manor of Goshall in Ashneck Sandwich by knight service. Note that the field of his arms is ermine, as used by other families who had for generations been knightly retainers of the archbishops. John Fremingham at 38 was also a feudal tenant and an executor of Archbishop Courtenay. Thomas Brockhull of Little Chart in Kent at 35 was another tenant who can also be connected with Prior Chillenden. A number of the arms relate to families included in the previous 2 bays. When a greater donation was made, the individual concerned was rewarded with more copies of his or her arms. The repeats here include Culpeper at 1, repeated from Bay 10, the Lost Arms of Green of Northamptonshire at 10, a family also present in Bays 10 and 11, while Wick, Fremingham and Brockhull are all repeats from Bay 11. Most of the donors were living people, and so only occasionally can testamentary evidence of a donation be found. One such is Sir Richard at Lees of Kent at 33. We find also in this bay the arms of various individuals who were not all that long deceased, being commemorated by their grieving relations or by their executors. I have already mentioned Lord Lovell and Holland. Bartholomew Lord Bourchier, at 20, also died in 1409. The water bougies of his arms are a canting device. Edmund Hout, whose arms are at 8, died without issue in 1408, having been Sheriff of Kent in 1406-7, and was buried in the cathedral. The same arms difference with a rose was recorded from his now lost tomb in the nave. The arms of Sir Robert Ogle of Northumberland at 14 have their normal quarterings reversed to place Bartram in the 1st and 4th quarters, indicating a donation by the Dowager Lady Ogle. Thomas Neville, Lord of Hallamshire, at 19, died in 1407 without issue. He was a younger brother of Ralph Neville, 1st Earl of Westmoreland, and acquired the barony of Furnivall in right of his wife Joan Furnivall. The most conspicuous feature of the Furnivall arms, which his widow placed in Bay 14, were its red martlets, and he took a single martlet from these arms and used it as his own cadency mark, as we see here in the left-hand picture. Next to this at 18 are the arms used by his half-brother John Neville, who inherited the barony of Latimer through his mother Elizabeth Latimer and quartered the arms of Latimer, while still retaining the cadency mark of the mullet on his Neville saltire, as we see here on the right. It looks as though the Archbishop has made a thematic arrangement by placing certain shields here in the same bay. We have Thomas Becket's arms at 25, with those of St Gregory's Priory in Canterbury at 27 having a Becket in base. St Gregory's owned a private chapel built by Thomas Becket, which was a site of pilgrimage in Canterbury, and their arms are a clear allusion to this fact. And here are my versions of some of those shields. Also, at 28, the arms of the family of Wangford include 3 Beckets. The Wangfords at this time were wealthy London drapers, while a son of the family was a sergeant at law, and I assume some link with Becket now forgotten. A strong argument might also be made that the arms of the City of London at 13 can be linked to the arms of Becket, in that not only was London an important pilgrimage site for Becket, but London citizens made annual pilgrimages to Becket's shrine. The 2 identical arms repeated side by side at 22 and 23 carry the interesting story of arms gifted through friendship. Sir Robert Knowles gave his arms to his friend Sir Hugh Brow. The 2 Cheshiremen died in 1403 and 1407. Knowles made bequests both to Archbishop Arundel and to the Cathedral Priory. The other shield was surely donated by Sir Hugh Brow's son Robert. Other connections within the bay are much less readily apparent. Elizabeth Planchet, Lady Clinton, whose arms are at 11, was widow of John Lord Clinton, whose arms are at 3. Elizabeth St Low placed the arms of both her parents in this bay. They were Sir John St Low of Somerset at 24 and Margaret Cliveden, the heiress of Cliveden in Somerset, at 24. Elizabeth's daughter married the next Lord Clinton, having previously been married to one of the heirs of Lord Audley, whose arms are at 12. Sir John Knivet, at 17, was co-heir with Sir John Aylesbury of the Becket inheritance. I believe that the previously unidentified shield at 30 is that of Sir Thomas Aylesbury, the son of Sir John, during his father's lifetime, differenced with a border bezanty. Sir Thomas's wife was one of the co-heirs of Engaine, the arms of Engaine being at the intersection of this bay with Bay 11. We can just see on the left side of this picture. St Martin's Priory, Dover, at 29, was founded in the year 696 as a cell of the Canterbury Cathedral Priory by Wihtred, King of Kent. Its arms, which date to 1345 or earlier, naturally became attributed to King Wihtred, but the background arms of sable across argent, being the same as those of the Cathedral Priory's sister monastery of St Augustine's in Canterbury, might point to there having been an earlier form of the cathedral arms than that with the Greek letters, which I believe dates to the reign of Richard II. Walter Corston, who was prior of Dover in this period, was remembered by Archbishop Courtenay in his will, and eventually retired to the Cathedral Priory. Gules, a lion rampant double-tailed argent at 6, were arms used by the English family of de Montfort, by this time long extinct. Their cousins, the Montfort Dukes of Brittany, still used these arms, so possibly they were sponsored by Queen Joan, the Dowager Duchess of Brittany, for whom the ermine arms of Brittany were placed in Bay 11. This must be open to considerable doubt, however, as in 1410 they were also being borne by the English knight Sir John Wood of Worcestershire.